Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we're checking out this blue, black and green or Sultai colored landfall deck as voted on by my supporters on Patreon. Our commander is Teval, the balanced scale, a 4 mana 4/4 spirit dragon with flying. Whenever Teval attacks, we mill 3 cards and then we may return a land card from our graveyard to the battlefield tapped, so it doesn't have to be one of those cards that we just milled. And then whenever one or more cards leave our graveyard for any reason, we get to make a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. So Teval enables its own abilities. By getting lands back, we'll get to make a 2/2 zombie token, and in general, getting lands back from the graveyard is by far the easiest way to enable Teval's ability to make zombie tokens, so that's what we're mostly focusing on in this deck. So then if we take a look at our deck breakdown, I've split things up into a few different categories. The first and largest one is the mana acceleration, since we're trying to play Teval around turn 3, sometimes we can even play it on turn 2 already. Then we've got a few effects that will mill cards into the graveyard and then get them back, so those can also enable Teval by themselves. Then we've got multiple creatures that let us play an additional land each turn. That way we can potentially combine them with our next category, which are effects to replay lands out of the graveyard, and especially if we combine those all with fetch lands that we have to sacrifice to get a land and then end up in the graveyard, we can replay those same fetch lands over and over thanks to all those extra land drops we can make, and make a 2/2 zombie token with each iteration. Then we've got additional landfall payoffs, because we are fetching up a lot of lands and getting lands back out of the graveyard, so any card with a landfall ability is going to benefit from it. And then finally our miscellaneous section has a few reanimation effects, some interaction, some other Sultai cards that play well in the strategy, and some additional finishers as well. So that's our deck in a nutshell. Now for the deep dive, starting with our mana acceleration. You're probably used to seeing Chrome Mox and Dark Ritual in most of my decks now. At 1 mana there's Birds of Paradise, Halfling can also make Teval uncounterable, Elvish Mystic, Lanor Elves, and then Utopia Sprawl has to enchant a forest. Deathrite Shaman's also great here since we're putting a lot of lands in the graveyard, so occasionally we can exile 1 to make an extra mana. And then Bloom Tender's awesome with a 3-color commander. We've got Explore to play an extra land and draw a card, similar to Growth Spiral. Fanatic of Veronas can make 4 green mana if we can untap with Teval in play. Both Into the North and the Rampant Growth can find an extra basic, and that's also why we're playing snow-covered basics. Lotus Cobra, another landfall payoff, so could also put it in the landfall section, but this can be incredibly powerful alongside our fetch lanes. Then a White of the Reliquary plays well with the zombie tokens we generate from Teval, as we don't mind sacrificing them to get an extra land, so that can also enable landfall again. Arcane Signet is usually worth it, making an extra mana right away. Spelunking, letting our lands enter untapped, is pretty useful alongside Teval's ability. And then Uro can also be escaped out of the graveyard, so has plenty of synergy throughout. Then our other graveyard effects include Ripples of Undeath, can mill 3 each turn, and then we can potentially pay 1 mana and 3 life to get one of those milled cards back, so that can also trigger Teval. Same with Cash Grab, milling 4 and returning a permanent among those to hand. Grapple with the Pass can mill 3 and then return any creature or land that's maybe already in the graveyard back to our hand. Same with the Procession, that just returns any card from our graveyard to hand. 6, when it attacks, lets us mill 3, and then we can put a land from among them into our hand. And then during our turn, non-land permanent cards in our graveyard have a retrace, so we can discard a land card to recast those permanents from our graveyard. And that's also why we have a lot of permanent-based removal spells, often enchantments that will destroy something when they enter the battlefield, as we can get them back with both 6 and Muldrotha, which we'll get to in a second. And Awaken the Honored Dead is one of those enchantments. On Chapter 1 can destroy a non-land permanent, on Chapter 2 we mill 3, and eventually we can discard a card to return a creature or land card from our graveyard to our hand, so that can also trigger Teval. Then the 3 mana Kotis Sibzik Champion can let us replay creatures out of the graveyard, and that's another reason why we're focusing so much on permanents as opposed to including too many instants and sorceries. Hedge Shredder can let us get the lands back from our graveyard that get milled. Timeless Witness can return any card from our graveyard, can also eternalize it. Overlord can be impended for 2 mana to also trigger Teval and get a creature back. And then Lumra can get a whole bunch of lands back out of our graveyard, also very good with landfall. Then our extra land effects include Azusa, the most powerful one, since we get to play 2 additional lands each turn. Dryadus +1 also fixes our mana, can maybe leave our fetch lands uncracked until we find a landfall payoff. Loot can also activate for 6 mana to find additional creatures. Swordtooth a 5/5 with a City's Blessing. Then the case, once it's solved, lets us play lands, creatures, and enchantments off the top of the deck, so that's most of our permanents. Oracle of Moldaya also lets us play lands off the top and lets us play an extra land each turn, so it can also provide a lot of value. And then the Gitrog monster does require us to sacrifice a land, but then we do get to play 2 lands, so it also keeps fueling the graveyard for us and can draw lots of extra cards in the process. Then we've got our effect to play lands out of the graveyard, including a 3-mana creature, Ramunap Excavator. There's Crucible Worlds, the original artifact, and then Conduit of Worlds at 4 mana, can also maybe get permanents back. There's Ancient Green Warden, which also doubles all our landfall effects. Muldrotha the Gravetide can get 1 land back each turn, as well as other permanents, such as our various enchantments and creatures. And then the Walk-in Closet, a 3-mana enchantment version of Crucible, can also unlock the Forgotten Cellar to access cards out of our graveyard. And then our landfall cards include Cobra, we've got a few token makers with Nantuko and Skewed Swarm, Mossborn Hydra can get incredibly large very quickly, and then a Tireless Provisioner keeps making treasures, and Tatiova can gain life and draw cards. And then our miscellaneous section includes some removal with Fatal Push, and then at 4 mana we've got Binding the Old Gods as another enchantment that can destroy a non-land permanent on Chapter 1, eventually ramps us as well. We've got some reanimation effects with a 1 mana Reanimate, and then at 3 mana Victimize can easily sack a zombie to reanimate 2 creatures at once. The Safekeeper can keep our creatures safe by sacrificing our lands, also has good landfall synergy, as we can sack lands and then maybe get them back out of the graveyard to enable landfall again. The Skimmer can draw extra cards when a card leaves our graveyard, so it can also easily enable it each turn. And then at 4 mana, the Goldkeeper is similar, making treasures instead as a payoff. Then we've got our Swiftfoot Boots, so we can give Teval haste and attack right away, and also protect it going forward with Hexproof. And then we've got our Sidisi Brute Tyrant, also another way to make 2/2 zombie tokens. And Titan's Nest, potentially one of the most synergistic cards with Teval, as we can now just exile every card from our graveyard 1 by 1, making a 2/2 zombie token for each activation, and then we'll also end up with a bunch of colorless mana that we can spend elsewhere. And then last but not least, Craterhoof Behemoth, a great finisher once we've built up our army of zombie tokens. Then the mana base needs to have lots of fetchable basic lands, since we might end up replaying the same fetch land multiple times, so then we want to be able to keep finding more basics. We've got the channel lands, which have great synergy, Otawara bouncing something, Takenuma can get something back, and then Boseiju an answer to artifacts and enchantments. Castle Garenbrig can maybe help cast some of our bigger green creatures, and Shifting Woodlands also great, since it can copy something out of the graveyard. And then we've got plenty of mana fixing, we've got our shock lands and surveil lands in each color combination, and then of course plenty of fetch lands, which are also essential to this strategy. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Zurgo, Thunder's Decree. This hand's a little slow, missing some cheaper mana acceleration. And this seems better. Could Rampant Growth on 1. Could also play Elvish Mystic, and then still play a tap land. Yeah, let's try that. And then I think I get rid of either Mossborn against Mardu. It's unlikely to survive. Could also get rid of the white. We'll get rid of the Hydra. Play Elvish Mystic and Mortuary. And a Spelunking seems unnecessary. So we need to find maybe a fetch land, and then a way to replay lands out of the graveyard would be great. The white can of course also help us ramp. And next turn I could already cast Teval. Opponent's got a Lootmonger. So we'll see if we want to cast Teval or if we want to develop our mana some more first. I drew a land. Yeah, I think I'm down to play Teval now. Hopefully we get to attack with it. If they remove it, I can still follow up with Rampant Growth plus White of the Reliquary. I mean, Pakal's pretty good, but at least I can block. And Lumra's not bad either. So step 1, probably attack. I did mill lanes, at least one. Make a zombie. And a crucible is the type of effect I wouldn't mind. Although we do have Lumra, which already just gets back all the lanes. So maybe crucible's overkill when we don't have a fetch lanes in circulation. And then play Woodlands. Can play Case, or I think I prefer Rampant Growth plus White. And get an extra swamp. And then the White can sack zombie tokens to get a land. So we can get a fetch land. So yeah, this is... what turn is it? Turn 3. Opponent was on the play. Could double block Anim for 1 mana. Possible they have removal. Yeah, I mean, could also just let them keep it, let them have their fun. And then we'll get to have our fun too. So, step 1, activate White. Could attack first, I suppose. Sure. Build another land. Anything we can do with shifting woodland here? I guess we can turn into Crucible or Titan's Nest. So both of those are decent options. So we can activate White on the tapped token and get a fetch land. Those enter tapped, I guess. And then Binding can take care of Anim, or we can keep going with a Titan's Nest play, which I kind of like. So tap the Elvish Mystic to activate. Or now Titan's Nest. Probably could have tapped the land itself, so we can exile more stuff. Triggering Teval for each card we exile. So I want to keep the lanes in there. And then, yeah, we could cast Lumra, maybe get even more lands in play, make even more zombies. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Ugin. Not gonna be a particularly fun matchup unless we are off to a quick start. Dark Ritual's nice, but I can't Dark Ritual Teval onto. So this still feels a little slow. And this one can maybe steal a quick win with Mossborn Hydra, but not without fetch lanes. So if I don't draw fetch lane, this sounds pretty bad with the fetch lanes. A Green Warden's nice with a Hydra. I guess we'll try. Nothing turn 2, found our fetch lanes, so can spiral now in case we draw a 1-mana creature. And then next turn play Hydra into Misty. Or we can get Teval going first. But I don't hate the all-in on Hydra plan. So Surveil, look for more lanes. Uro can put another land in play. But next turn they could already cast Ugin. Yeah, they're definitely casting Ugin next turn. Hedge maze. Is that good enough? Not really. I think I need another fetch land. That's just basic. I can cast a Green Warden, but I won't have an extra land drop left. 4, 5, 6. Opponent needs to go land Ugin, and then they can cast another spell, so they get to exile multiple things. Do I have any counterplay? Can bounce one of their artifacts, but that may not be enough. Might buy me a turn, actually. Well, I guess what I can try is play Uro, hope to hit a land, and then while Uro's still in play I can channel Odawara on the cheap. So I'll go full control, hope to hit a land. Has to be untapped. We did. So while Uro's still on the battlefield, I can Odawara bounce your standard. Hydra up to 16, and yeah, if we can delay Ugin by 1 turn, that's all we need. So the Odawara Uro play paid off, maybe? Opponent seems to have disconnected, so I'll take that as a win. Although they could maybe still top deck something that saves them, that can answer the Hydra. Although there's not that much in a colorless deck. A removal usually starts around 7 mana. So our opponent takes 16. Still a turn away from Ugin, one can hope. Although, I guess they could top deck an Ugin's Labyrinth for the extra mana they need. I guess they could also have a 0 mana colorless spell to trigger Fleshraker to then cast Ugin. Although I can't think of too many 0 mana artifacts you would want to play in that deck. Alright, our opponent wasn't happy that they weren't able to cast Ugin, and they explode. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Helga, banned to ramp. Yeah, we'll try this. It's not particularly explosive, but if Bloom Tender sticks, we can make 3 mana with it. They've got the Llanowar Elves. And then we've got ways to play additional lands, ways to play Land of the Top. Just need something to maybe play lands out of the graveyard now. Utopia Sprawl has to enchant a tapped Portico and a Pilgrim. So our opponent's got a lot more mana than we do. And they might have a free spell in hand, could be Solitude or Pact of Negation. No blocks. Try and cast Teval. And there's the priority holding again. They can just cast a Solitude if that's what they have. Hydroid for 2. So they deliberately left mana available. So this is naming blue, so they could have a counterspell up here. Fatal Push, maybe missing Revolt. So my graveyard's currently not very full. Could start with Overlord, see if we can maybe mill something useful. Or I could play Oracle. And then if there's no land on top, I can still mill it with Overlord to keep going. There's a land on top, so we'll play that. And then now Teval can try and attack. Milling loot. Did not mill a land this time. A Victimize on top, so that could also reanimate stuff. Alright, so I could still potentially mill with Overlord. And then there's a chance I'll still be able to play Land of the Top with Oracle. Or I can play 6. And then that can maybe mill stuff next turn. Let's go with Overlord. Keeps up Fatal Push. Don't know if I need to take anything out right now. Opponent counters a trigger, fair enough. So no milling. So Fatal Push can't take care of Helga just yet. Now a Solemn for more ramp. Opponent knows about the Victimize, since that's public information. And they keep up more blue mana. Take 2. And no land on top, so we'll start by attacking with Teval. Get a land back. And a fetch line on top is great too. Can also enable Revolt on Fatal Push. Alright, so now we have options. Quite a bit of mana to work with too. Conduit of Worlds on top. So with the Victimize, could try and get back Muldrotha and Provisioner. That could be a fine starting point. Opponent maybe counters the Victimize. And then we'll take it from there. A Reprieve, so I could still recast it. Opponent's going to counter again. Alright. Can Surveil. And then Mortuary will keep on top. Can still play it with Oracle. And Green Warden lets us replay lands out of the graveyard, so that's kind of what I'm looking for. Good with the fetch lands and the extra lands cards. Take out Helga. Opponent's got a response. Maybe this is the pact and they're considering it. Alright, Helga down. Okay, so next turn we're drawing Green Warden. If I get to keep all my stuff, alright, I might just be dead here. 20 damage exactly, so that's the math they were doing. Alright, that's too bad. Gonna have an exciting turn next turn, but Craterhoof says no. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Extus, often a Mardu kind of token sacrifice deck. This hand feels a little too slow and fair. This is better. So Fatal Push may not be great if they're planning to make a bunch of tokens. Although then again, the Awaken the Blood Avatar, if that's their plan, dies to Fatal Push. Turn 1 can still Growth Spiral. Pitching maybe the Safekeeper. Possible Safekeeper's better than Dryad. But we'll try this. And then I need to maybe fetch Islands. Preserve my life total. Spiral now in case we find a mana creature. Can now fetch a Surveil land end of turn. Alright, so we've got a landfall payoff. Next turn we can cast Teval already. If our opponent keeps up 2 mana, I'm less inclined to want to play Teval. Breeding Pool, I guess, is fine. I think I'll still try it here. So far so good. And Enduring Innocence for card draw, so we get to untap with Teval, we got our wish. And then I guess we'll go Dryad. And then I don't have to sack Fabled Passage, so I can save it for next turn, when we can actually pay for the non-Tuco's ability. And then I guess I can keep up Fatal Push as well, since Dryad fixes our colors. And then next turn I have 2 uncracked fetch lands, can copy the Dryads twice. So then we're just missing a way to replay lands out of the graveyard to fully combo off. Alright, opponent passes with mana up. So I can play lands, pay the 2 mana, and go ahead and attack. Do we get in with our tokens? Sure. Go for the fetch lands. Pay 2. Can still fetch at instant speed to make more Dryads. So we've got all the extra land drops we'll ever need. Just missing a way to replay those fetch lands from graveyard. Don't have any in the graveyard so far, so there's still a couple in the deck. Opponent could be setting up a sweeper here, so then I want to preserve my fetch lands maybe. Although I guess I'll maybe have to sacrifice them in order to replay Teval. We'll see. I didn't want to attack with Dryad in case they had a Wandering Emperor. Opponent's playing a lot of cheap creatures that they can sacrifice, so they're definitely playing more for the Awaken the Blood Avatar side of things. And yeah, if they're attacking, there's a board wipe incoming for sure. Well, that's too bad, so we'll have to rebuild. No more Dryads, but we'll still have the non-Tuco, making 1/1s at least. Choose a number between 0 and 10, so everything's gone. Okay. Back to the command zone. Take our turn. Provisioner's not bad, so we can play this. Fetch. Make a treasure, make a token. And then I gotta fetch once again. Can also fetch Survey lands now. But still need the untapped land for Teval. So I'll spend 1 treasure and then end of turn I can fetch a Survey land. Still have push up. Now a Caretaker's Talent, so plenty of card draw. And a Janny. Could be an okay Fatal Push target, but might still want to save it for Awaken the Blood Avatar. So we'll Surveil. Say no to the lands. And a Titan's Nest can go off with Teval. Got 12 cards in graveyard, so that's 12 zombies right there. When can we activate this? At any point. Alright, that's cool. So we'll go ahead and attack. I guess we don't want to send in the ground stuff necessarily, even though I Fatal Push for a Janny. And get back fetch land. Trigger landfall, trigger Teval. Could also get some food tokens going, in case we're gonna get burnt out somehow. And yeah, Teval triggers whenever. So yeah, I can pass. And then Titan's Nest at instant speed. Obnixilis is acceptable. So they're gonna try and transform a Jani. Can push it in response. I guess they can use talent to copy the Obnixilis token here, that's pretty sweet. But if they don't have a board wipe, they seem dead to me. Make a devil, draw off Innocence. Lose 2 life.
Pleasure doing business with you.
Reanimate a Jani, okay.
I will prove my worth to my pride.
And now just a bunch of small creatures. So yeah, end of turn, I'm going off with Titan's Nest. Awaken the Blood Avatar. Finish off Nantuko, that happens. And Jani transforms. So they are doing some cool things. Sacrifice a 1/1. And this says when it attacks, deal 3 to each opponent. That's beatable. 3 damage, finish off Provisioner. And then now we can show them the combo. Every single card in graveyard represents a 2/2 zombie. And yeah, our opponent scoops it up. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Eshki, Temur. Our hand seems functional. If our opponent plays a fetch land, Deathrite gets a bit better. Could also wait to play it after I maybe Spelunking and have an extra untapped source. Opponent had a birds, now Fanatic. And then next turn I could already cast Teval. Fanatic would then on the following turn make 4 mana, setting up Lumra. So yeah, not bad. Opponent can play their commander. And there is now a fetch land to maybe give Deathrite additional mana. So there's Eshki. And Boots to give Teval haste is also an option. So, don't have a land guaranteed for Spelunking, but the fact that Fanatic makes 4 mana next turn I think is still worth trying Teval here, even though it is vulnerable. So we both played our commanders a turn ahead of schedule, and now a Temur Ascendancy, giving haste and drawing cards. And the Lanor Elves can immediately make mana, so they could have another 1-drop, but they don't. Alright, now Fanatic makes 4 mana, so we've got 7 at the very least. Can maybe start by attacking. Could also grapple to maybe mill more lands, but yeah, let's attack first. Mill the fetch land, luckily. Alright, so take 4. And then, yeah, the other option was playing Spelunking before attacking, so the land would enter untapped. But yeah, I'm not opposed to going grapple, hoping to mill a land that I can then play, and then I can still play a Lumra. That works. Make a zombie. And then the fetch land goes back into the graveyard for Lumira as well. Pretty good. Got a pretty full graveyard to maybe set up the escape on Uro. All their opponents also going off now with a Battle Crier. So everything has a 2 mana discount at the moment. Swordtooth for 1 mana. And Eshki is getting dangerously large as well. All their creatures have haste. A Ruby, trigger Eshki. And a Feaster. Well, at least we've got a 8/8 Lumira on defense. Opponent's not done yet. Hammer Skull is next, and that one does deal damage with Eshki's last ability. So now their spells get a 3/4 mana discount. And it's not like our deck is packing much removal for the Battle Crier. Okay, so we might be dead next turn, but let's make the most out of it. So I can play Skimmer to potentially draw. Step 1 might be Spelunking. And then Woodlands. Can copy Tatiova, Titan's Nest, or Excavator, all great options. Let's say we go with Tatiova, then we get to draw a bunch. So I guess I can tap this for mana too. Titan's Nest makes more zombies. Yeah, close call here. I think I do go for Tatiova. And then I can fetch. And Binding's now an answer to the Battle Crier. Can fetch again. Now the Closet lets me replay lands from graveyard. I don't think I've played a land yet for turn. So I could go there. Replay a fetch land. Trigger Tatiova. Fetch again. Otawara we can also channel, although I'm probably gonna run out of mana here. So, Teval attacks. I don't think we get in with Lumira, although I could. Get back another fetch land. Untap thanks to Spelunking. Can channel at instant speed if it lines up favorably. And lines up favorably. Don't want to bounce the Hammer Skull, so I'll bounce Swordtooth. And then we're not done yet. Fetch again, triggering Tatiova. Cobra, sadly, I already played a bunch of lands out. And then Binding, I could take out Eshki to essentially reset it, although with the Battle Crier they can cast it pretty cheaply. So I think we still take out the Battle Crier here. So now they'll have to pay more normal prices for their spells. Borborygmos, okay. Am I dead? I guess if they can trigger Eshki one more time. Opponent discards a bunch of lands to Borborygmos. Can only deal damage to creatures, so it takes out Teval. Back to the command zone. And now Overlord's hardcast triggers Eshki, and we're dead. Well, that was a pretty exciting game. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Clement, blue-green frogs. And yeah, we'll keep. Chromox makes this hand a lot more exciting. Opponent's got the turn 1 Mystic. I'll ramp out Ripples, and then Karu Goldkeeper probably has to go. Also means our Mox makes all 3 colors. So if we find a 1 or 2 mana play, we'll grab it with the Ripples. Priest is pretty scary. So opponent's got a lot of mana already. Now Overlord. Milled some lands. Yeah, I'll pay 1 to get a land back. Can make it the untapped land. Sure. And get the Overlord going too. And then get back the Green Warden, so next turn we can try Teval. Hopefully there's no counter spells involved. Otherwise Binding is also an option. So Clement says whenever another creature enters, they get to return a creature with lesser mana value to hand. So they'll probably have a bunch of creatures with nice enter the battlefield abilities that they get to reuse. Such as Elvish Visionary, drawing a card. Now 3 elves for the priest. Play Clement. Can pick up Visionary, recast it. Not bad. I don't think it's worth it to Binding Clement since they have so much mana to redeploy it. So I'd rather get my own Teval going. I guess they still have a land to play for Utopia Sprawl. Okay. Don't think I can pay 1 this turn. Play Teval and pass. And then next turn we have a couple options. If I pay 1 for Ripples, we make a zombie. And then I could Binding afterwards. Trainer makes Training Grounds. And then Inga and Esika turn all creatures into mana creatures. Replay Visionary, draw. So now Inga and Esika may be a better target for Binding. Alright, so Teval gets to untap. We mill with Ripples. And yeah, now I could pay the 1, getting back maybe a Spelunking. Since we'll get the lands back with Lumra anyway. So then I could also go Spelunking, play a white. So I think I still try this over Binding. Reanimate is not bad either. So we get to attack with Teval, get a land back, which will then help cast a white. Might make it Woodland here. Anything exciting to reanimate? I guess Tatiova's not bad. But we can do it next turn when we still have a land drop to make. Okay. And then Ancient Green Warden, also combo with Tatiova. Teval can get back a fetch lands to enable landfall a bunch. Although the Green Warden can also play them from graveyard. So yeah, hopefully we get to untap with all that stuff. Now a Charmer, also a frog. Can discount their creatures. So that might set up something pretty busted. Don't know if we've reached infinite loop territory yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. With Trainer, drawing them cards. I'll just let the opponent do their thing. Yeah, you never know with alchemy cards what kind of infinite combos they can set up. So now Training Grounds discounts each ability by 4, so they can draw for a single blue. And they can activate as many times as they'd like. At least they're somewhat limited in blue mana. And the mana from Inganisika cannot be used on abilities. But yeah, this is a problem. Fauna Shaman can shoot her up whatever creature they want. So that's a must answer as well. Otherwise they'll just get a Crater Hoof and kill me. And Oracle of the Alpha as well. What are we picking up? Elvish Visionary can draw more. Alright. They haven't played Kami yet. Are we done? We are. Alright, so let's keep on milling. Mill the Crater Hoof. Well, I might just reanimate a Crater Hoof now, which is maybe not the coolest play, but I'll maybe pay the 1. No, I don't need to get anything back, even though it would make a zombie. So, step 1, Ancient Green Warden. I replay a bunch of fetch lanes. I guess I can only play 1 land this turn. Can grab a Surveil land since it will be untapped with Spelunking. And Bloodstainmire Surveil again thanks to Green Warden. Alright, so I could still explore. Lets me play an extra land. Could have also milled it, I suppose. Replay Swamp, which also triggers Teval. Could activate the whites, but at this point, do we have a lethal with a Crater Hoof? We might. First trigger Teval, then Crater Hoof. And smash. And get another land back. There's a lot happening here. Don't think our opponent lives to tell the tale. The best answer to an opposing Crater Hoof is your own Crater Hoof. Our opponent seems to have disconnected. And go to damage. And there we have it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Adeline, one of the better mono-white aggro decks. Our hand's got potential, however, since we can Deathrite, set up turn 2 Teval. On the play, we have Azusa and a fetch land, so we're just missing a way to replay lands out of the graveyard. So I'll get Overgrown Tomb. So then next turn, Ritual, cast Teval. Could technically also reanimate, but now an Enforcer. Mana value 2 or greater. Well, if they want to keep up mana for the Enforcer each turn, be my guest. Could also go for Azusa. And then get to play 2 more lands. Then I might get there. So I need to get another green source, I guess, which I don't have. I guess I can still play Cascade afterwards. So yeah, we should be alright. Make a green. Play Azusa. Play 2 lands, play Teval. Alright, we figured it out. Everything's on the table. So if they just tap down Teval or answer it, we're gonna be sad. Just an Addy Trailhawk. And a case is nice. So, can attack with Teval. Hope to mill something juicy to reanimate. Not quite, but we hit a land. Can make it a fetch land to maybe let us shuffle next turn if we don't like our top card. Play case. And pass. So yeah, if we can find an effect to replay lands out of the graveyard with Azusa's extra land drops, I could essentially make 3 zombies each turn, as well as hit 3 additional land drops. And then with a solved case, we can start playing creatures off the top as well. And yeah, our opponent has seen enough. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Nethroi, so a graveyard deck. Hand seems fine. Even though I don't get to play elves on 1. Could start with a Bloom Tender. And then next turn, Ritual out Teval, Bloom Tender makes 3 mana. Seems fun. So their opponent's going to be filling their graveyards to set up Nethroi. Although they're keeping up mana, so possible they have interaction. Let's find out. That works. Play Teval. And then I can still Spelunking or get the Hydra down. And then next turn Spelunking. Do not have a fetch land, so that's what we're really hoping for. To combine with Muldrotha. But Teval might mill 1. It's gonna be a Hedge Shredder, a card we also have. Found the land. So play land. Can Spelunking before we attack so the land enters untapped. Put in Urborg. Attack, and then I can still maybe play Muldrotha. We sure can. And then I can fetch before damage to Growth Hydra once again, so that's 16, 20 damage coming across. And then second main I can still play Muldrotha and maybe replay something from graveyard. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Lonis, a deck that can go pretty crazy, making lots of tokens. Our hand is good, not great, I would say. Fnatic can maybe play turn 3 Teval. Then we've got extra land drops, but we're still missing a way to replay lands out of the graveyard. But with Procession we can maybe get one of those effects back. So we can try. Turn 1 Surveil. Do still need to find a third land. Opponent might have a 1 mana elf. A Birds of Paradise. I'll get a Mortuary. And keep Swamp. And then Fnatic has a little bit more upside than Into the North. Once we play Teval, can make 4 mana. And I don't expect a ton of removal out of a blue-green deck. Turn 2 Morrowind, scary. Alright, let's go for Teval and hope to attack with it next turn. And then, yeah, I could already cast Muldrotha with a fetch land to return. A loot lets us play an extra land. Although I don't think I can play that same Muldrotha land twice, because it's a little bit different how Muldrotha is awarded. So ideally we find a different way to replay lands out of the graveyard, so I can do it multiple times. But can still maybe play a land from hand. Opponent with Lonis into Nissa. It's a lot of elves for Marwyn. And they're not done yet. 2 mana left for a Springleaf Drum, so that pays for itself. And a Steel Seeker. Okay, so now those clue tokens can find additional lanes. Alright, so step 1, attack. Unless we want to play the Goldkeeper first, but I don't think we do. Yeah, let's just attack first. Go for the fetch land. So 7, 8 mana. Can play Muldrotha and then replay the Halfling. As well as the land. Okay. Decent turn, we've got our Muldrotha online, and then next turn Goldkeeper can maybe make more treasure. Speaking of treasure, our opponent's also going off here. Marwyn making a ton of mana. They can use the clues to draw, or they can use Lonis to sack those clues instead. Would love to get back Binding with Muldrotha next turn to answer some of those problematic cards. They're going to start sacking clues. They can draw 2 more, but our opponent's keeping up mana instead. So possible they have a counterspell in hand, it's hard to tell. So I think I want to play the Goldkeeper first. And then we can play Binding. Fetch. Replay fetch land. Play Binding. Make a treasure. And yeah, they had a Frilled Mystic to counter the Binding. Now I do still have Procession, which can get back that same Binding. Or we can wait until next turn to use Muldrotha once again. I can still fetch. And get a Overgrown Tomb, since I might want to untap land here. So I can attack with Teval. Opponent's gonna draw. And get back another fetch land. Make another treasure. And then, yeah, I think we can Procession back Binding and still cast it. And that makes a treasure. Makes a zombie. Cast Binding. And I think Marwyn's the scariest here. That makes 5 mana. Okay. Pass a turn. We've got a nice army of zombies. So the Goldkeeper did some work here. Can play a loot and also eventually use the ability. But our opponent might be able to deal with all the zombie tokens. Thopterist making an Ornithopter each turn. They still have a bunch of clues they can sacrifice. And yeah, our opponent scoops it up. So we get to see this Teval landfall deck in action, and this version of Teval definitely played out a lot differently compared to Teval Arbiter of Virtue, the one with a delve mechanic. So it's nice that despite having some overlap, the two decks still have their own distinct playstyle, this one focusing a lot more on landfall, since at the end of the day getting lands back out of the graveyard is one of the easiest ways to enable your balanced scale to make lots of 2/2 zombie tokens. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.